Hello and welcome. We begin with a conflict between two of Africa's powerhouses. The long-standing rivalry between South Africa and Nigeria is intensifying. But the latest escalation has neither taken a diplomatic route nor a geopolitical one. It is through prank cab orders. Allow me to explain. People from South Africa and Nigeria have been engaged in an online battle in the form of Bolt for Bolt trend. They are ordering e-hailing rides on apps like Bolt and Uber in each other's countries, and then are cancelling orders once the driver arrives at the pickup location. This online rivalry reportedly began from South Africa and was labeled Request in Nigeria Challenge. Videos and screenshots emerged online showing South Africans ordering Bolt rides in Nigeria from their own country. The purpose was purely to cause frustration and financial loss for Nigerian drivers. This provoked Nigerians to respond, and they did in more folds. Hashtag Bolt for Bolt emerged in response, reflecting Nigeria's counter-challenge. Nigerians began ordering Bolt and Uber rides in South Africa in retaliation. They replicated the same disruptive tactics. Now, this triggered extreme Bolt surge pricing in Cape Town and Johannesburg, leaving many South Africans stranded due to unavailable and overly expensive rides. The digital war is reportedly linked to the controversy around Chidimma Adetshina, the former Miss South Africa pageant contestant who is now competing for Miss Universe Nigeria instead. She faced backlash, abuse, and xenophobic attacks over a nationality dispute in South Africa and was questioned over her Nigerian heritage. South Africa's action and Nigeria's counteraction led to a further surge in the challenge. Citizens from both countries use social media to either show support or to express their dissatisfaction. Many describe this as an acute wastage of resources when fuel prices are constantly rising. Stuck in the middle of the rivalry, the technology ride-hailing company Bolt was significantly affected by the surge due to fake requests. In response, the company suspended several accounts and restricted inter-country ride requests. The company said, and I quote, "Bolt is aware of the recent fake ride requests between individuals in Nigeria and South Africa. We've swiftly implemented measures to resolve the issue, including restricting inter-country ride requests. Those responsible have been blocked from the Bolt app. We prioritize the safety and integrity of our platform and are committed to supporting our driver partners," unquote. However, this move directly impacted its operations. From economy to sports to music to culture, Nigeria and South Africa have had a history of rivalry. But people in the two economic powerhouses of Africa have taken it a notch higher with the latest ride-hailing prank. Now, for more, we have with us Ayanda Sishiwigzel, a political and social commentator and freelance journalist. Ayanda joins us live from Johannesburg, South Africa. Hello to you, Ayanda.
Hello, Alison, and hello to all of the Firstpost viewers.
Ayanda, how do you see the latest online war between people in South Africa and Nigeria, with both sides placing these prank ride orders?
I think it's ridiculous, honestly. There is so many problems that we have in the country, even in Nigeria, even here in South Africa. We are dealing with so much. I think that these pranks are really unnecessary. They are distracting from the real issues that we have at hand that both countries are facing. Recently, right now in South Africa, the latest second quarter labor stats survey was released, which shows that unemployment has increased up to 33%. From 32.9%. In Nigeria as well, it shows that there's been a sharp increase in unemployment as well. There is the increase in petrol prices as well here in South Africa and in Nigeria. I think that we are really focusing on the wrong issues when it comes to what is going on online and what is being discussed when it comes to this issue between South Africa and Nigeria. It really isn't anything that is to harp home about necessarily. I think that it's something that is is ridiculous. It is a distraction from the real problems that people are facing on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah. And this, of course, sparked a wave of online backlash. How is the feud impacting the drivers for both Uber and Bolt?
It really is impacting them in the worst way, because you need to understand that for people who are driving Uber and Bolt, the rules are different here on the African continent. So they are the judgments that have been coming out for Uber drivers and Bolt drivers and the different kinds of victories overseas, that impact hasn't necessarily been felt here on the African continent. And so with the high increase of petrol prices, people who are using e-riding services have really been having a difficult go of it. We also know that drivers have been having less customers come to use their services because of the high cost of petrol, the high levels of unemployment, which means that most people can't afford to use the e-hailing services that are available as is. What this prank actually did was put people out of work entirely, because you need to understand that people work in totals for the day. So, for example, if they want to make, for example, 7,000 rands a day, that would have been affected by this prank, because now they've been put out of work, which means that there are families that are not going to be fed for that day or for that week. And really, it's just something that was so totally unnecessary and uncalled for.
Yeah, and Ayanda, take us through the details of how this dispute began after the former Miss South Africa contestant, Chidimma Adetshina, she's recently landed in Nigeria to compete in the Miss Universe Nigeria pageant. How did this then happen?
Yes, there has been conflict going on since Chidimma even announced that she's going to be competing in Miss South Africa. There's been so much back and forth that has been going on online that it actually really is borderline scary. I have been caught in the midst of that online battle when we're talking about Afrophobia and xenophobia and how scary it is and how life-threatening it actually can be. And there are life-altering consequences to that Afrophobia and to that xenophobia. And so there has been a lot of back and forth that has been happening. And what started out, I think even before Chidimma, it started out as something that was really innocent, comparing cultures, comparing sportsmen, comparing statesmen, now has really turned into something that is incredibly ugly. It's now turned into something that is affecting the livelihoods of people, and both in Nigeria and here in South Africa. And once again, it's something that could have really been totally avoided. So the social media rhetoric has now been spilled over outside of social media spaces, and now we're actually seeing the real life consequences to that Afrophobia and xenophobia and xenophobic rhetoric that we have been seeing on both sides, from Nigerians and especially in particular from South Africans as well.
Yeah, and reactions from concerned individuals include urging South African and Nigerians to realize that these Bolt and Uber drivers are just people trying to make ends meet, as you've said. Now, they emphasize that wasting their time and money while inconveniencing those who genuinely need their services is not a game. What actions can individuals take to address this situation and to support the affected drivers?
I think most importantly, just think before you tweet. It really is as simple as that. Making sure that social media is not an ugly place. If you're going to be ordering and using these e-hailing services, a tip would be great. A tip would be nice if you can afford to do one. But most importantly, just realizing that this is not a diplomatic dispute. And I really want to just emphasize that there are not going to be, worldly consequences that are going to come. Ronald Lamula, who is the DIRCO minister, has re-emphasized that the relationship between South Africa and Nigeria has remained extremely cordial. And we have not heard anything from Mr. Bala, who is the Nigerian ambassador here to South Africa, or Ms. Tami Mselegu, who is the South African ambassador to Nigeria as well. So really, at the end of the day, it's just a matter of just people minding their own business and carrying on about their day and making sure that they don't spread any kind of hateful rhetoric on social media. It really would just make everybody's day go a little bit better, and let's just all act like the mature adults that we are on this earth.
And you did touch on this. Could we just dive a little bit deeper, and could you shed some light on the long-standing rivalry between South Africa and Nigeria, from economy to sports to culture and to music?
Yes, look, Nigeria and South Africa, very, very, very similar countries. We have similar economies, and in fact, between South Africa and Nigeria, we're always changing on between the first and second biggest economies on the continent. So we need to make sure that people want to do business on the African continent. They need to make sure that they have access to Nigeria and access to South Africa as well. As much as we share those victories, we also share some really bad problems together. There are high levels of unemployment. There are high levels of police brutality. In Nigeria, we had the End SARS protests. In South Africa, we had the Marikana massacre, courtesy of party and partial to the police. And so we also are dealing with the same socioeconomic issues. And so those really do come up to the fore a lot. But also culturally speaking, we have a lot of musicians from South Africa who make it big and around the world, as well as in Nigeria as well. They have their musicians, and their culture is also front and center into the world as well, in the form of Afrobeats from Nigeria. And here in South Africa, we have Amapiano as well. So we have people like Davido, who is a musician from Nigeria, and we have our very own musician in the form of Tyler and Moonchild Senebi, who are already breaking that ceiling within the music, within musicians, and spreading the culture of South Africa within the global sphere. So we really do have many similarities, South Africans and Nigerians. And so I think that's the reason why there used to be this kind of fun rivalry, but then of course now has turned into something that is totally so ugly. And I believe it's because of the socioeconomic challenges that are existing in both nations, and how it is that the leaders, again, in both nations have failed the people and citizens in both countries. And this is where we find ourselves now, blaming ourselves and fighting for the little pittance that we have from an economy that has kept young people outside of it.
Absolutely. Ayanda, thank you very much for being with us on Firstpost. As always, it's great to speak with you.
Absolute pleasure.
Climate change is on our doorstep. It's time for a revolution to take root. And it starts with 1.4 billion Indians. It starts with one tree for humanity, one tree for Mother Earth, one tree for our future. Project One Tree, a News 18 network initiative.